So here I am, just counting out some twist ties for some harvesting I'm going to do, and just trying to get enough for my CSA and for the farm stands. And looks like we got enough. Let me just go get what I need. So just hook them right here, right down there, and go over here and harvest some kale. Just put a few of them into this crate right here, and let's see. So the trick to harvesting kale is that you can either cut it or pull it off. These are blue curly Scotch kale, it's called. But it's really important to harvest the all the leaves on the kale bunch, and that way the older leaves that maybe aren't so great to eat or whatever. See, there's one bunch. They get taken off, or you don't have to put them in the bunch like this one, for example, right here. You can see this is kind of not that great looking, so you would never probably want to eat that. So I just throw it on the ground. But if you leave it on there for too long, it still continues to use up nutrients, and that's not so good. And it'll just prolong the life of the plant if you take off those, kind of like pruning. Well, what I used to do is also weed while I went along, but then I found like that really took a lot of time, so I don't do that anymore. Although I wish I could, because my garden or farm back then, I call it more of a garden, looked a lot better than it does now. As you can see, there's a lot of weeds here, but it's very productive actually, despite the weeds. So I don't worry about them too much, although I wish that it looked better. It looked more like a garden, and there's not much I can do about that. But I mean, I suppose I could hire more people to weed for me, but then I'd be hiring a lot more people and paying a lot more money for something that isn't necessary, as far as I'm concerned. And anyhow, these are about the size of the bunches that you want. You can see that I use the full twist tie. These are vintage Marin Organic twist ties. Marin Organic isn't around anymore. And then I cut the ends off just to make them nice and neat, and that'll help when you go to sell them. These kale this time of year grow pretty nicely. If you try to grow them in the spring out here anyway, they'll get kind of buggy. Lots of aphids and flea beetles and whiteflies, even powdery mildew. But if you start growing them this time of year, I can get them keeping going from, if I plant them in July and start harvesting in August or so, early September, August. I can harvest them all the way through December, and if I have 3 plantings starting July, August, and September, I can keep harvesting all the way through March, April, or even May sometimes. So that's pretty nice, even with all those weeds and everything. So I like kale as a crop for farmers. Maybe people out there who are consumers don't appreciate kale as much as some organic farmers do. But it's a wonderful crop because you plant it once, leave it in the ground, don't have to do a ton of maintenance, and if it's timed right, it's very disease and bug free, as well as having like a continuous harvest. You can get like weekly or bi-weekly harvest at the peak of the season. So kale obviously is a great crop. I mean, many of you probably suspect that already, I'm assuming. But yeah, there's a bunch of crops that are like that, and we'll talk more in our planting kind of time when we're talking about planting on these types of crops that are low maintenance and high yield. So just wanted to show you that. Next we'll talk about the lettuce. So I'll just walk you right over to where the lettuce is, and we'll put this crate back and get the lettuce knife, and we'll go get some little gem lettuce. So this is a lettuce knife right here, and it's nice because it's got a couple of features on it that I appreciate. One is that it's very sharp. Two, it can you can stab into the ground and get the lettuce, as well as cut the bottom of the lettuce off and kind of clean it up. So those are all nice features for a farm tool. Plus, it's got no moving parts like scissors. It doesn't really break like scissors, and doesn't need a lot of sharpening because it's got a nice big blade on it. So this is Little Gems. You can see they're pretty much perfect. Really like them. Great crop. I also grow like a variety of little romaines and things. These are technically romaine. For lettuce, there's different seasons, but you can pretty much grow lettuce year round here anyway, on the coast in Marin, and even in eastern Marin too, where it's even warmer. But the real trick there is just variety selection, making sure that you choose the right variety for the time of the year when it's hotter or colder. Like romaines, for example, can tolerate a little bit of heat, but also can tolerate a little bit of cold, so they're not as frost sensitive. So I get right down there and put the knife down towards, like, kind of right on the surface of the soil, and make a clean cut. So just push with one motion, cut it, and comes away pretty clean. And then you can trim off the bottom leaves if you'd like, just for better kind of sellability, market visibility or whatever, presence. And then you have a really nice little one. But totally not necessary to take those bottom leaves off. Just do it sometimes if you know the customers and clients want that. Restaurants are a little less choosy because they already have kind of a kitchen staff that's gonna be doing a lot of that stuff for you. So that's kind of a nice thing for growing for restaurants. But growing for a public consumption, most people are a little bit more choosy, kind of picky generally, and so you want to make sure that you can kind of cater to them. The funny thing about that is really you're doing like a lot more work for less money. But I suppose if you have the right volume, you can make it worth it, or maybe that's just your thing. It's what you like to do. But, you know, that's pretty much the conclusion of lettuce and kale harvesting, and I'll have more crops to harvest to show you later. Okay, well, have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.